You have heard it been said that there are two things guaranteed in life, death and taxes. But what people don't seem to include here is interest rates. When asking the question, what is a high interest rate and what is a low interest rate, it really matters on what standard of judgment you're using, because back in the 80s, interest rates were anywhere from 8 to like 15%. And in recent years, the lowest percentage was like at 2%. So if someone's going off a standard that's like 2%, which is like the regular interest rate during like 2020, then anything beyond that would be a higher interest rate. Now, we need to establish a common ground of what is a standard interest rate and what's a low and high. So for that, we're going to take the historical average interest rate starting from the 1990s, which is about 5.4%. So according to that number, yes, today's interest rates, which are at the low sixes, high fives, would be considered higher interest rates. Even then though, I wouldn't say that the interest rates themselves are absurd numbers, because you also have to take in consideration other factors. Like an interest rate alone isn't a end-all be-all type of thing. What also matters is the monthly payments on a house, or where whatever's getting charged interest. That really does matter a lot. So to answer the actual question of the title of the video, should you buy a house with high interest rates? What you're trying to do, what kind of house you're trying to buy, if it's a single family, multi-family, are you trying to buy an apartment complex? Are you trying to buy a building? What are you actually trying to do, and how soon do you want to buy it? In what area do you want to buy it? And how much money do you want to put down? And how much money are you willing to take to the closing? I would say ask yourself those questions, get the proper answers, and then go from there. Now, you could say, well, I can get this now, but I can refinance later. Well, that assumes that the interest rates will go down and that refinancing is actually going to be a better financial solution for you. Of course, there's no real way to know per se. Sometimes you might hear arguments saying just buy now, refi later. It's not always a good thing to refi. It just really depends. I'll give you an example. I had a client who they heard it online somewhere that, hey, it's a good thing to refinance. And so they went to talk to a lender. This person was paying $400 in monthly payment for a house. If they refinanced it, it would be up at like $1,000 or something. So obviously in that specific case, it made no absolute sense to refinance. Like, why would you even refinance at that point? It made no sense. Now, I'm gonna say if the monthly payment isn't beyond a point where like, if I pay this, I will go broke, then I would say that is a good time to buy. So if you're going to invest, for example, like doing something like house hacking, where you live in one unit and rent the other one out, you have to look at how much money that house is going to be making and your assets and how your financial situation is going to change, as well as if your financial situation allows for it. I generally have a rule that if the finances are there, you just go for it. Now, it might not be for everybody just to have the finances or just to go for it, Some people have emotional needs they need to fulfill, and that's what's more important to them. So it might make sense for someone to buy a house right now. Again, it just depends on what you're trying to do, or it might not make sense for someone to buy a house right now. Some people, for example, who have lower credit scores or higher debt, so don't make enough income, maybe it's not a good idea to buy a house like soon. Like, some people might have to wait 6 months to a year or 2 years, and some people can buy it like literally after watching this video. You can apply and get one. So really, again, I'm going to say it's when you're financially ready to do so, the finances allow for it, go for it. Something to consider is talking to an experienced lender or a seasoned real estate agent who really understands the type of house and the type of financial plans and personal goals you have for yourself, and will help you meet them. It's not really a race, but there's also pros and cons depending on how you look at this stuff. Sometimes the cons are bigger and sometimes the pros are bigger. It just depends on what you're really looking for. And remember, at the end of the day, it's really you who has to deal with this property. In need of a real estate agent or advice, feel free to contact me on Instagram at rich_homie_Caesar.